I'm Larry Siegel, and I guess we're going to talk about the beginnings of Image Gallery.
What was the photography scene like?
The photography scene at that time was minimal. It was limelight. It was, I don't know, maybe there was an occasional something at the Metropolitan Museum. But it was very fitful, and there was MoMA was the most consistent. And that's what the photographers were aware of that, and we would even get invited to openings at the MoMA.
Were there very many books that came out, or?
There was pop photo, modern photography, and a U.S. camera.
How would this idea occur to you to start a gallery?
Well, because, you know, I would be with friends, we'd have pictures, we'd look at each other's pictures, and it would sort of became, I'm guessing this is what happened. It sort of very logically, organically led to, we got to do something.
And so now you have to find a space.
Well, I kind of used some sort of logic, because there was an off 57th Street equivalent of the painting gallery, which was 10th Street. And since I lived right there, so the logic would be, well, that's what I figured. And sure enough, I found an old laundry that was for rent, 100 East 10th. Well, you can't beat it at a address like 100 East 10th Street. And it was like two or three doors from the corner with 3rd Avenue. You have to understand that I was not gratuitously in that spot. Right around the corner on 3rd Avenue between 9th and 10th was Robert Frank. And next door to him in an adjoining loft was John Cohen. And right across the street from the gallery, within 2 doors, was Saul Leiter.
So, and you knew they were living there when you picked the...
No, I found Robert,
later, so you didn't
he
know.
came in to read the newspaper. He would hang out in the gallery.
How did you get the name for the gallery?
It was a time of the abstract expressionism, where there was that. So I'm saying I'm making images. These are something you can look at, and that's what the photographs were. I mean, of course, eventually I did have a abstract photo. You know, I wasn't limiting anything, but there was an image. I didn't pick it out of a hat. No,
Right.
no. It slowly came to me, and it stuck with me. And
So, okay, so you're getting ready, and what do? You like paint the floor? For
yes,
the
that
first
was a
day.
very
Okay,
funny.
so what color did you paint the floor?
Deep red, brick red. I found 2 guys who were kind of down and out, and we had to renovate. There was kind of a mess.
Yeah.
And so I paid these 2 guys, and they, cleaned up. Slowly we cleaned up the place. And the first person to enter, relatively formally enter the gallery was Eugene Smith. And he came around 2 or 3 in the afternoon. The prints were all on the floor on newspaper, and the floor was still wet, and he was wearing these, it was, I guess, popular, heavily cleated rubber, and he was, I painted it 2 days before, and it just, it didn't, no, it was,
oil-based paint.
it was, the floor was
Right.
funny.
Not acrylic. Today we have
No,
acrylic
yeah,
dries in
this
an
was
hour.
cave paint, you know.
Right. Paint was wet.
The paint was still wet, and we looked at each other, and then I said, "What do I do with them?" I hadn't thought of how to hang a show. It had dawned on me, and it was opening that night.
Right.
So that was a slight error. So his help was, well, make a line, and he was kind of
Sure.
Well, it was not the best, that's not what you really want to do in the end, but he make patterns, all he could think of. So, and he actually physically helped me. I opened the gallery. We did make a board. Somebody said you should have a board. I don't know why they said I should have. Oh, and they paid dues, and maybe the fees would do. I didn't have to charge that or something.
One of these people that you're meeting monthly, they also kind of contribute. But who were they?
Charles Pratt, David Vestal, Ann Trier, David's wife, other photographers. I charged a hanging fee, which was $50.
Okay.
Which was the rent.
Right.
Then I had phone, electricity, and sometimes I had a sitter.
So now you're kind of getting ready to open, you get it cleaned out, you put up some kind of walls and
Celotex,
Celotex. And
because I figured out how we were going to, with little ears with grommets in them, and then put the thumbtack in, and then put a piece of masking tape over to hold the thumbtack in.
yeah.
It's very
State of the art.
yeah, of course. The show opened, people came in, and I didn't have the baffles. David Vestal suggested you might want to baffle the light. So the opening was like a blaze of, which in some ways was not bad because everybody could see each other very well. This is the back room. There were two rooms.
Right.
This is the doorway,
Okay.
and then there's a baffle here. That's the front. That's Charles Pratt. And we're assuming it's Ann Trier, David Vestal's wife, that was the show,
Oh, okay.
Pratt and Trier.
Okay, and who's that other guy there on the right?
Moi.
Right. Your
There was a
table,
desk, there was a small desk,
desk,
yeah.
and you'd sit there during the day when it was open.
Yeah,
What-
then
what?
when I eventually had to get a sitter because I had to go earn some money.
Right.
I had a book they could sign to get on the mailing list.
Did you do like publicity for the show?
I wrote press releases. I was aware that they had to be contacted, and they had to have. I found out the time that they needed. The magazines needed over a month
Yes.
to because there was a monthly publication. The newspapers could have 10 days, or so they. I wrote brief listing who was showing and the nature of the show, and I sent it to all the photo magazines and the newspapers that made sense that would cover it. The New York Times, the Village Voice,
Who was writing, for instance, for the New York Times?
Jacob Deschen.
Okay. And who was writing for the Village Voice? Do you remember?
I can't
Some
remember.
of the-
Grace Mayer.
Oh, yeah. Tell us about
She
that.
came in and reviewed every show, almost every show for Edward Steichen.
By review, you mean?
She looked at it and she told him
Go
what.
back in time.
She-
Who was Grace Mayer?
She, I think, was for a while at the City of New York, the Museum of the City of New York. I think she was a wealthy kind of person, and she maybe volunteered to sit on Edward Steichen's lap. I don't know.
How did you decide what your first show would be?
It was interesting because I made many phone calls, and some people they didn't trust. They wanted, no, I don't know you. I'm not going to do anything. So I eventually had the first show was Lou Bernstein and Fred Plaut, and so that was the first show was back cover pictures from Columbia Records and of personalities,
Yeah.
and Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Kind of bummy type that Lou Bernstein. Street Life, yes. I had an Atche show from Bernice Abbott where she needed a dry mounting press. So Charles Pratt, who was a millionaire, bought her. I didn't meet her. I didn't at that time. I didn't, but he bought her a press, and it was delivered to her home. And so I had a show of Atche's before the Museum of Modern Art, which they had a show, I think, a year or two later, a major Atche show. I didn't sell one print, and they were $50.
Were they well known? Anyone you can remember?
I have everybody.
Well known. There's people you did that people don't know now that will be discovered in the future.
Oh, right. Well, anyway,
But, okay.
in addition to Smith, Ansel Adams did appear, and I thanked him for sending me. He said he must have been drunk for sending me $25. Clarence John Laughlin.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah.
Did you ever meet him?
Yes, absolutely.
He was a wild guy. Aaron Siskin came, and he hummed Swanee constantly. Roman Vishniak came. It was winter, and he had a coat on. I had a coat rack, and I almost fell down. The coat was so heavy that he was not a very tall person. He was kind of very stocky, very strongly built man. And
Why was the coat heavy? It was like
it was a very thick, huge. I never saw such a. It must have been from Odessa or wherever he came from.
right.
He may have come from there. And Minor White did come.
You kind of recognize you were a pioneer. You
I
kind of
had
go
no
around
choice.
telling people, you might have told people, but, and then you were doing something for the medium.
Yes, yeah.
What was the, what did you mean when you thought about the medium and what?
Well, I mean, look, people were not buying. I wasn't making any money. The photographers who were showing were not making money. So they were getting exposure. That's what it it boiled down to. And that's, you know, that's helping people be aware of photography. You want a clear understanding of what the condition was.
Yes.
There was, the window is here, the street window. There's a wall there. A guy came in and said, "What's that?" I said, "They're photographs." She said, "No, didn't you cut them out of a magazine and paste them?" People had no idea of a print, because you know they took it for granted. You had a photograph of something made to have a record to reproduce. You didn't have the photograph. They didn't even think of it. A beautiful selenium tone print. No. So it was very shocking, really shocking, and that's what I had to deal with. But slowly, you know, there was an audience. The painters would come in, the people from the other gallery. There were about 10 galleries. I closed because I became a father, and I had to put more time in, and that's it. And people liked it. Everybody came in with, you know, they started. I think the simplicity of photography, in some ways, to the new viewing audience, was refreshing.
Would you call yourself like a visionary? No, you can't. It's all right. No.
Larry Visionary.
Well, visionary.
No, I was a very straightforward person.
No, visionaries don't see themselves as visionaries, but when you look back.
Right, yeah, no, the gallery was a decent gallery. There were some good shows. There were some shows that maybe you could quibble with. I don't, you know, of course. And people liked it. And I guess some people were sorry that I closed. Mm-hmm. But, you know, life had to go on.
You had to close the gallery. Do you think that people thought differently, I don't know, all the people, but some people about photographic print being on the wall?
I think there was some education. I think people were impressed eventually. The neighborhood became aware. There were many reviews. And they were generally positive from the Village Voice, and I guess they liked the shows. They were. I mean. It was a new thing. See, the coffee shop strikes me as people took it for granted.
The photographs in the back.
They were in the back, which was okay. It was good that they were separated from the tables, but
I mean, it was like not respecting them as much as.
Yeah, it was in a coffee shop. It had a different purpose. It was an amusement for people to go and have a cup of. I don't want to.
I understand, but you know, you're being gentle. So okay, but so. You gave them a different kind of experience.
I gave them more or less a real gallery experience, which was the images were being shown for their own value and their own sake, in an uncluttered, in a simple, clear situation.
Image Gallery at 100 East 10th Street will close the end of this month, according to an announcement last week by Lawrence Siegel, who founded it in March 1959. Starting last year, an attempt was made to keep the gallery going under a cooperative management, supported by a membership, but this proved inadequate for the financial needs of the gallery. During its 3-year history, the gallery exhibited 30 shows representing the work of 75 photographers. The gallery was the only one in the city devoted entirely to the display and sale of photographs as works of art.
Yay.
While interest on the part of the public is high, Mr. Siegel says, Membership alone is not sufficient to meet the costs necessary to maintain the gallery. As need for such a gallery is evident, anyone with concrete proposals pertinent to the support of such an undertaking should contact Image Gallery.